Dennis Foster,
How you doing, Rick? Nice to see you, buddy.
Welcome to Yachting USA here at the IBEX in Tampa.
Oh yeah, man, interesting show. Love it. Was here last year as well.
Yeah. I tell you what, I was. In fact, when I was talking to the show producers here and talking about coming in and doing this, I brought the perspective that I've been coming here to this IBEX show, I think since 2006 or 2007 as an exhibitor. And, really had a lot of good business takeaways from this while I was basically running nautical structures. And here we are so many years later and the shoe's on the other foot. And I'm here as an invited guest and a content creator, and this is a lot of fun.
Very, very interesting, man. Love being here. Love coming. I just flew in from France. I was at the Monaco boat show, so I have like one night barely sleep. So we came over here. I come over here and it was great. I know there was a big scare like at the beginning, like if it was going to be canceled with the storm, but they overcame it, cleaned it up. Looks like we're right on.
No, and Tampa came through.
A lot of
Tampa
nice
came
people
through.
here.
Yeah. A lot of heartfelt condolences though for some of the people on the Barrier Islands. Good friend of mine lives on Madeira Beach. He had 4 feet of water in his house. Oh. Yeah, he's hurting pretty big, and you just watch the whole trail of that storm. It was tragic.
Mother Nature, you can't get around.
She can be a bitch. So, but you live in Florida, you live with that risk, and you basically mitigate it best way you can, and just know that's part of being here.
Absolutely.
Part of being here. But part of being here now is we're having these conversations, and I've learned something because you're here as your Yacht Kings business. I've known Dennis Foster, Foster's Marine Service, for so many years. And this is cool. This is a kind of fun gig you got going here. I want to know more about it and what got you here.
Yeah, so it was interesting because it was on hold for quite a while, and we also have our main company is Foster's Yacht Services over at Safe Harbor in Lauderdale Marine Center.
Yep.
And we do a lot of big ships repair, ABS yacht builders, damage insurance claims. So we're always doing something over there in the shipyard service space. And so what I did is I tasked our COO, Sari, and I said, listen, I want to open up this company to do the marketing for Foster's.
Right.
And so we did that. It took a while to really get established how we were going to, put it together, what the business model is actually going to look like. And then as we started, everybody else in the industry started asking us to do it. So, hey, can you come take some pictures? Can you come do a listing for us on this boat for broker listings? Can you come do drone footage and GoPro footage? And can you come take some photography for us? And even some of the major paint manufacturers, I do their application videos.
Okay, yeah,
so
sure.
it just started taking off, and so now I'm here as a dual agent.
Nothing wrong. Me too.
I know. I work for Foster's Yacht Services, and we work for Yacht Kings TV, and we're just, our main goal here is just to network with a lot of people. We're all here with the same customers, the same boats, the same clients, and see how we can collaborate with people, sort of like what you do, Rick.
Right.
And just, collaborate with this person, collaborate with that client, this manufacturer, this boat.
Right.
And having done some of the overseas shows right now in Cannes and Monaco, it was really interesting. It was our first time doing that. And it's just been like, I'd say 2.5 years now, and it's really been taking off, and there's people asking us for this now and asking us for that. We're getting some new clients, and I'm networking with all the old ones. And just like you, everybody's asking me, wait a minute, what are you doing over here? I thought you were at Foster's. So I'm kind of working both ways, and I've got some really good people back at Foster's that are able to hold down the fort while I come out here and do some of the filming and visit the shows and cover the events. So
that tells you really what you need to know about you setting up your business. When a business owner can step aside and go do the next thing and know that he's got people covering his back and taking care of the business for you. That's magic. That's what you want.
That is really good. And it wasn't always that fortunate,
Oh no.
Sometimes you got to go through, 10 people to get one good one. And
you got a ratio that good?
Oh, maybe 10. But I think the biggest problem right now that everybody has in the industry that, you hear people talking about it, but a lot of them don't talk about it, is the labor situation right now. And I think trying to hire good people, getting experienced people, getting people that actually want to come and show up for work and work a full day.
Right.
And trying to teach the younger generation about the trades and what's available here, because there's still many jobs, and bring up the younger generation has been a problem. And I think, the marine industries of South Florida is addressing that. I think other people are addressing that and try to just, train our younger generation so that as we exit,
Right.
they come up and they've been properly trained, and it's being able to continue.
We as an industry have to have that, or us 50, 60-year-old guys can't hang in there forever.
Yeah.
And who's going to backfill what we do?
Yeah.
And that takes years and years and years of focus and dedication and experience to be able to bring that level. One of my partners, Captain Herb Magny, is here at IBEX today. We'll be talking later about some of the initiatives he's been involved in. I talk a lot about doing well for others on my podcast. I think that's a really important thing when we get to, I'd say, this place in our careers where we're able to start giving back a little bit, thinking about what it is that we do that is useful and can help the next generation or generations. And the MIASF has a pretty cool apprenticeship program that they're working with, and I've worked with Resolve Marine, not just Mission Resolve, but also Joe's Resolve Academy, and they've got a good program, and there's a lot of philanthropy that's going on behind the scenes that Joe Farrell is bringing forward to help support the underprivileged people coming into the space. And I know D'Angelo Marine's also involved in bringing in some young people into the organization and showing them this industry. And these are just examples of other maritime companies that are trying to reach out and do well for others, show young people, often underprivileged people, some opportunities they had no idea potentially existed.
Correct. And in this space here, and we're going to call the marine space and the yachting space, all of us baby boomers that have been in the industry a while that are growing up, we're going to be exiting here, in the not too near
20
future.
years or so.
Yeah, well, however long we can stand up. And, I think it's our responsibility to train the next generation of coming up, these underprivileged kids and everything. For me, it's a little bit tough because I'm in the fiberglass business too. And when they start grinding and they're itching at home, this isn't for me. I got to leave. I'm sorry, man. I need to do something different. But there's some people that like it because there's a science to it too with resin and ratios and fiberglass and glass to resin ratios, and it's really interesting.
And it's hand done. And when you're done, you step back and look what you've done, and you go, "Look, I did that."
There's a big space, and these young kids right now that are coming into this industry, I mean, they could start at $25, $30 an hour, and they don't even know much. When I first started, I was starting at $8 an hour, $10 an hour, and if I wanted to work weekends, I'd get maybe $12.50, which I thought was a tremendous amount. And I mean, you can't even wipe your shoes for that amount today. So the amounts that these younger generations are starting with, and there's $100,000 a year, $150,000 a year jobs there for somebody that would want to learn.
Right.
And I think as being a baby boomer and in the industry for almost 40 years, and just like yourself, it's our responsibility to teach these kids the skills and train them and bring them up so that when we leave, we're leaving a person in charge to replace us that has been trained by us. But I'll tell you what one of the big fears are in the industry.
Tell me.
Is that a lot of the older people don't like training younger guys in fear of losing their job. And I've proved that in many situations. Really? I've even been willing to sign contracts with guys. Hey, you train him, I leave you on for 5 years, this is what I'll pay you. I'm not teaching that younger kid. So there's a fear there.
Fear factor.
There's a fear factor there that the guy that's been working at RPM Diesel, let's just use that as a reference, for 30 years. He doesn't want to train this new kid who happens to be pretty good with his hands in fear of once we got him trained, we don't need you anymore.
Ouch.
And I think that's what was going on, but I think it's starting to normalize right now because right now, according, with the economy and the multitude of jobs that's available and the new construction projects that are being built and all the boats that are being put in the water, there's a drastic need for skilled labor. And it's in every area. It's in welding, it's in exhaust, it's in fiberglass, it's in computer electronics, it's in upholstery, it's in interiors, it's in wood refinishing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many different trades you can pick up. And, I spoke at the Marine Industries Association and I did a speaking engagement there. And I was really happy because my whole goal there was to get these kids on the edge of their seats and like, oh, really?
Yes.
So I had I think the guy's name was Eric. We'll use Eric for right now. And I said, Eric, if you came in the business and you studied as an apprentice in electrical work and you got your ABCYC certification and you studied under somebody for like 5 or 6 years and you got really, really good and you were really good, guess what? What's your first name? Eric. Eric's Electrical Services. You now can go and open up your own business because you studied under somebody, you got your certificate, and you were willing to put in the work and all those hours.
There you go.
And I think that's what really separates a lot of the younger generation right now from being behind a computer and want to be working remotely, which we need also, but not as many, I would say.
Not as many, no.
And people that actually do physical work with their hands like this country was built on.
Well, and I would go out on a limb a little bit and say that our generation, I think we're groomed on the idea you put in the time, you put in the effort, you know, it's a long game. A lot of young people I talk to are expecting some level of instant gratification. You know, I just graduated, I should be at a $150,000 a year salary because I just got this degree and it's gonna, you know, let me be a philosophy guru. You know, it's like, no, you have to put in the work. You have to show up and actually learn a little bit about what you're gonna do before you expect to be compensated at the levels you'd like to get there. So there is some patience factor that's got to be factored in here.
Yeah, and I see a lot of people in business right now that have no business being in business. They're a great worker. They're really good at their craft and what they do, but they have no business sense whatever. And that just goes to show you, because if you put in the time, and these young kids, and whoever it is, even middle-aged people right now that don't have jobs, if you can come in and learn this craft and work, I mean, what a privilege it is to work on super yachts.
It
man.
is.
You're going on, this boat's 30 million, that boat's 6 million, this boat's 8 million. You're being able to go on and work on this kind of an asset that these millionaires and billionaires own, right?
Right.
And you're being afforded the opportunity to learn whatever trade you want to learn on there. And then one day you're going to go into your own business, and you know, you got to put in the work before you get the money.
Absolutely.
So
true.
when people, and they're right now starting at really good money right now. So if they can keep it up and they can learn the trade, the sky's the limit for a lot of people. And we all know, like, there's nothing like being on the water. I love the boating industry. I'm real passionate about the yachting industry, even though I don't get a whole lot of time to even go on my own boat. But real passionate about what I do, and I could just see this industry. We need a lot of good, skilled tradesmen to take our place as we actually exit the industry. And you know, a good reference to that would too be like what Ken does if you know Ken Clinton from Intrepid Boats.
He was on my show.
I seen your show. Good buddy of mine too. I like him a lot. I'm always following his updates for Friday updates, Saturday updates.
Absolutely.
And you see he's got his team set up. They're all trained. They know what they're doing. He explains what's going on with like the 50 Evolution.
Yep.
And you know, whichever model he's working on now, and the hull and the plugs, and that's teaching people in the industry. So he's actually sharing his knowledge not only with the younger generation, but everybody that watches his podcast and his information.
And so I have to say, Dennis, what makes him stand out? His passion.
Correct.
His passion.
Correct.
He is passionate about what he does and why he does it. And then when I got in deep with Ken, and this came out in the interview, I believe, you realize he started out in the shop.
Bottom. Yeah.
He started out at the bottom, pushing a broom.
He did.
You know, and saying, I can do so much better than this. I can do so much more. And he hung in there.
Yeah.
And he was tenacious, and he basically just worked his way up. President of the company.
Yeah, isn't that something? Listen to this. From the broom sweeping floors to the president. You don't hear those stories every day. And you know, I'm so proud of that guy when I watch him, man.
Yeah.
And you know what it does? It gives hope for our younger generation that, hey, maybe I can start out sweeping the floor, and then one day I can be a VP or a manager or a president. But you know, like they say, more money, more problems. When you get paid more money, there's more responsibility. And managers, there's a lot of responsibility on managers, whether it's in the yachting industry, whether it's in being a broker, whether it's in doing podcasts like you. There's a lot to manage.
There's a multifaceted, and you touched on it too, about you get people that get very good at a particular discipline, but then when they step out of their box and say, okay, now I'm going to hang my own shingle and I'm going to make this my company, and they don't have the discipline of running the business, making schedules, meeting commitments. They do their particular discipline well, but the rest of it falls apart.
Correct.
And that's going to fall probably into conversation. We're going to do a program here probably after the first of the year called the Refit Roundtable. It's something I'm putting together. It's going to be one of our first live broadcasts that we do with Yachting USA. We're going to talk about some of the issues with refit in South Florida and in the United States in general, and where it's falling apart and what we've got to do to get it back. I watched 3 boats this summer leave on their own bottom to go to the Mediterranean, to go to Spain, to get paint work and other refit work done. And when I talked to the captains, his comment was, well, I am not going to risk my reputation with the owner with the corruption corridor. You use those words.
Yep, he's got a good point there.
When you start thinking about,
yeah,
you know, that loss of revenue, I mean, it's 300 grand plus just to bring the boat across the ocean.
Yeah.
So there's 300 grand gone.
Transportation.
Yeah, just to get the heck out of Dodge so they can get the work done where they perceive it's going to be better.
Yeah. Or cheaper.
Or cheaper.
Yeah.
I understand they might like to think it's cheaper. I doubt it would be, but the perception is, well, I'll be treated better.
Yeah.
It's more professional.
Yeah.
So we've got to fix that problem. We got to address it, and we got to figure out how to, keep that in play. And I do know that Mets Trade in 2025 is going to have a whole section of the Mets set up for refit. It's first time ever, and they're going to do it geographically, so regionally. So there's going to be opportunity for the South Florida, Southern U.S. refit yards to collaborate, come together, come to Mets as a unified team in 2025, and basically stake their claim to the refit industry up against the Netherlands, Germany-based refit work and the Spanish Mediterranean refit work, Spanish, French. So in the Turkish and every other place of the world where this happening. So we've got a little time on our hands to get our proverbial act together and be ready to step back onto the world stage and say, hey, keep bringing the boats back.
And that's funny you say that. It's a great topic there, is the refit industry, because a lot of these companies that are just coming up, small guys, which, one of my good friends, I won't mention his name, but he used to call them schmucks in a truck.
Yeah. I probably know exactly what you're talking about.
I think you know who I'm talking about. I want to mention his name here. But he calls them schmucks in the truck, and I was one of those schmucks in the truck. I had a little red van. I was kind of doing repairs, kind of wasn't really that good at it, but was trained by a lot of good guys. And if you would ask me how I learned all of this, I learned not what to do, I learned what not to do. And by making all those mistakes and screwing everything up and making big mistakes,
then having to fix it.
And then having to fix it, I learned what not to do, and it was so relevant in the industry. And today, I've run a lot of multi-million-dollar refits. I do a lot of damage insurance claims for the insurance companies, a lot of surveyors, brokers, owners. People from insurance company call me directly. When these insurance claims and these hurricanes come, I am busy like you wouldn't believe. Between Ian, I just finished 30-something boats over there since the hurricane in Fort Myers.
Wow.
But if you would ask me as a refitter in Fort Lauderdale, what experience, and I have an ABS certification for composite repairs.
Right.
I actually went through my certification there. If you would ask me what are some of the most important parts of a refit, and I think the first part I would say would be scheduling. I think the second part would be budgets.
Yep.
And then the third part would be time frames and breaking down each task and each area in individual, what we call Gantt charts.
Before you start or as you start?
Yeah, before you start.
Exactly.
Because what happens, a lot of these people get into refit and like, oh, well, I'm going to let him do it. And the way I look at it is I do all the dirty work first in a refit. What's the dirty work? The fiberglass work, stripping the bottom, grinding this out, cutting the top off, making a new hard. I get all the dirty work out of my way first.
Yep.
And then I start getting into the clean work. And the last thing that comes in are the soft goods and the carpet.
Yep.
And then it gets delivered, sea trialed, tested, and brought back to the owner. But how do I know that? From making so many mistakes. Bad budgets, bad schedules. Oh, I thought this was going to be 20 hours, but it's 200 hours.
I would say in my career I've been involved in many hundreds of refit projects, and the successful ones stand out from the unsuccessful ones for primarily one reason. Someone took the time to do the front end work. They did this. They did the budgeting. They did the scheduling. They pre-ordered the long lead time items. They lined it all up. So when it was time to bring the boat in, and you could start. It had a schedule, a Gantt chart that worked, and you came to the end of the project pretty darn close on time, pretty darn close on budget, and you had a program that dealt with the cost overruns or the unexpected things that happened. But it's way too many times we see projects start and they're cutting the boat apart as they're trying to figure out what they're going to do.
And that's interesting because when you can do a lot of that preparatory work beforehand, and one of the biggest points in a refit is the selection of contractors. So who's going to do the paint and fairing? Who's going to do the welding? Who's going to do the bottom paint? Who's going to do the varnish? Who's going to do my teak decks? So all of this comes into play. And when you can put all of that together as one unit and then break that down individually by trades and tasks and contractors, I think it's so much easier because you've done the work preparatory before you get started over there. And I think that's where a lot of our success comes. We'll do all of our contracts, we'll get all of our stuff put together, we'll cut a budget and a time frame together. But you also have to have some clauses in there where you have to allow, especially in my range of work, because when I'm doing damage insurance claims, sometimes I open up and whoa, and I find a whole nother can of worms. So what I do at that point is I stop, I'll call the surveyor back in, I'll get the owner on the phone and keeping the captain and the owner involved and make it like just every week you're giving them, every week you're giving them updates, and it's almost like they're refitting the boat with you.
Well, they are invested in the program.
Correct.
They're fully invested in what you're doing. Yeah. And of course, segueing a little bit, you're also documenting everything you go along. You got the videos going on. You've got the photo documentation. Yeah. The owner gets to see the whole process.
Correct, man.
See what he gets at the end of the gig.
You know, pictures, nothing like a picture.
Nothing like it. Absolutely.
You know, I've a lot of them say, well, I don't really want to paint the boat right now. So I say, well, look, so I just painted this one in metallic blue. Take a look at this. And he's like, oh. Okay, you know, because they're confused, but you know what you do is you go out there in the marketplace and say, hey, what's this type of boat, this manufacturer? What are all of them? What colors are out there? What colors are selling? Like, if you want to paint a boat white, because you got 17 other boats that are painted white of that manufacturer and that model. So a lot of them will do baby blue metallic, or they'll do, you know, jet red, or they'll do jet black, or they'll do different colors, or maybe a neutral color. And depending what the interior is doing, you got a lot of good designers out there that are doing these interiors and working with these manufacturers. So I just think refit is not something you start out of the gate with. It's learned over a long time from messing up and doing a lot of it. And if I could tell you how many mistakes here over my 40 years of being in the industry, but each one of those, I'm not doing the same mistake twice.
And that's called experience.
Yeah. Or it could be, on the other hand, insanity.
Well, I'm still here after 40 years too, and there's some insanity absolutely involved in that. So I have to tell you though, I'm really impressed with the Yacht Kings piece of it, because I didn't see that coming. And it seems like an interesting parallel how I too have fallen into this space. And I have to tell you, at this point in my career, I'm having a lot of fun with this. Oh, this is good stuff.
This is great. You know, people sometimes call me a reporter. I'm like, a reporter? I never reported on anything my whole life. But I wind up doing interviews. I wind up collaborating with people. Right. We put our team back at Yacht Kings stateside has put a whole business plan together. We've got editors, we've got people that produce it, we've got people that shoot it. And like even the stuff we did in Cannes and Monaco, we already sent back as work on getting edited right now. So beautiful. When that all comes out, I'm just happy. I network, I meet people I usually would have never met. You know what they say, if you don't get out of your office, you're never going to meet anybody. No. And I was so bogged down on refits and making sure everything was perfect for my clients that I forgot about the whole networking aspect of the business. And that's actually what's got us here at the table
Dennis,
today.
It is so essential. When people ask me, Rick, how'd you get successful in this industry? I basically tell them one thing, show up.
There you go.
Show up. You know, you have to show up.
That's exactly right.
You can sit behind a computer and behind a telephone all day long. You're not showing up. They have to see you. They have to get to know you. You have to be in the industry so you understand what's really happening. And then you come away from that with new ideas, ways to fix problems, ways to make yourself relevant.
I call it present in the moment, but I'm having fun, man. I'm running both companies over here. I'm like a dual agent, you know, I go back and forth and I love what I do. Like you said, I'm really passionate. I wouldn't want to do anything else in the world. I like what I'm doing. I like getting on all the bigger yachts. I like getting on smaller yachts. I like getting on tenders. And like we always say, you'll hear from Ken too, and Kim Swears, boat boss,
we're meeting
his
tomorrow
girlfriend.
Morning.
Are you? Yeah. You'll hear from them. There is nothing like being out on the water. And that's why I love being in the yachting industry. And we need to do our parts as, you know, let's just say elders in the industry, and bring up this younger generation to see what we have seen and to teach them on how to work on these super yachts so that as we make our exit, they make their entrance.
Are backfilling us, absolutely.
They fill in the gap.
Yeah. And if you know my family, you know, we're avid divers. My son Tristan here, who's grown up on the water. And he's got seawater in his veins. He truly does. And, you know, he'll tell you that that's one of the best ways as family to really create a bond and to, you know, recreate and and live life.
Yeah.
You know, it's really where we live.
Yeah, and you're lucky too because you have your son working with you.
I do.
And, you know, I wouldn't even expose my girls to this industry. To tell you the truth, I don't think I would. I don't think I'd want to have them in here. You know, like, hey, you do this. You know, it's just. You really got to have some thick skin and some alligator skin sometimes.
So then I get their STCW and going to show up in below decks one of these seasons.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. There you go. And but I like it. I really appreciate you having me on the show. I'm honored to be on here and talk about Yacht Kings and the new company coming out. And, you know, you're going to see us all over the networks and all over the social networks.
I think that's great. And I look forward to some collaboration. And I think
absolutely.
There are times when 1 + 1 = 3.
It does.
Yeah.
You know, and when I was younger, my dad passed away about 3 years ago. And I always like to say this. He always said this, Dennis, you must learn how to divide before you multiply. And I never forgot that. And in case somebody out there is trying to figure out what that actually means, you know, pay your people first, make sure everybody get paid, divide before you multiply and get yours. There are so many times I've had to take out of my savings account and pay my people when I was coming up.
Yep.
And I wasn't even able to take a check, but I always paid my people. And right now, even with some of my success, I always divide before I multiply. And I think that's a really good term.
It's brilliant.
It is.
As business owners, we have seen that as well.
Yeah.
And it is what we do.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, this has been a real joy.
Yeah.
Look forward to seeing you back in Fort Lauderdale. We got more to talk about.
Absolutely.
We got Flibs coming up, and maybe we'll find some collaboration going into Flibs too that could make things interesting.
Absolutely. And I'd love to have you over to Marina and give you what I call the nickel tour and take you to lunch at the yacht bar.
The nickel tour.
The nickel tour.
I'm looking forward to when I gravitate to be the quarter tour.
Oh, it could be a quarter tour, but you know, I think the nickel. We'll start with the nickel because there's been a lot of improvements over there, a lot of things to see, a lot of things to talk about, and really thank you so much for having me on the show.
We're going to do that.
I appreciate
Dennis,
it so much, Rick.
Thank you for joining us.
You got it, man.
And again, until the next time, I'm out of here.